are live this morning on the Cultural Chameleons once again. Today, Tuesday, had to change it a little bit. I had a bit of a weekend plan with my parents. I went to the Marlborough Sounds in New Zealand. They have a walking track there called the Queen Charlotte, and in the outside of the main walking months you can actually bike the track. So my parents and I went on our mountain bikes and did a 3-day mission, and it was absolutely beautiful weather and an amazing spot. Stayed 2 nights at a place called Furneaux Lodge, and hence coming back yesterday and today getting into the live to be with you all. And when I was on the track, it was interesting. I was thinking about mountain biking as a metaphor for life, as I do. And when you are really feeling it, when you're really nailing it on the mountain bike, it's because you feel so intrinsically happy that you actually end up riding your bike better. And that's a really good start for today, because we're going to be talking about authenticity, that inner peace, and really understanding those concepts of how you come to that inner peace. And that's really what I feel creates the power and the potential for the rest of your life, and it shows up in so many different ways, including being better on your mountain bike. So I'm just going to jump into it, and thank you so much, Yamaya. She was the one that came up with the topic for today. I do find that when I'm writing topic ideas for Cultural Chameleons, I'm trying to understand what people would like to hear about so that I can support you on your journey. And it was really nice to have this topic because I think it's very essential, and it's probably the foundation of what I do teach people, is to realize their inner truth and have that authenticity about them. And then, of course, the stillness of the mind is so important. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is that inner stillness, that quiet, calm peace that you find within yourself when you finally decide that you're happy with yourself and you're happy with how your life is going. And then, of course, there's that really genuine connection that you have with people when you are authentic. And a lot of people don't really know how to be authentic, or they haven't really ever thought about it before. And it is very much about that connection that you can have with other people when you can be your true self and speak your inner truth. So we're going to be going over some tips and the way that you create this, or sort of tips and tricks of how to get closer to your inner truth, I guess, and your authenticity will shine through. And there's definitely a formula of how to come back to self, and we'll be going over that today. We'll also be going over connecting to your true power. There's something really magical that happens when you start to be authentic, and that's all about your true power. So if you are tuning in today, I'd love to know who's watching. So type in the comments something so that I can shout out to you. And if you're watching this video on replay, hashtag replay, and make sure you're writing down what your key takeaways are. I think it's really important, once you've learned something, to implement it straight away. And even just typing a comment of what your biggest takeaway is from the video, it solidifies those neural pathways in your brain, and it really helps you to put those steps into action. So take the time to write something in the comments that you loved, something that you're taking away, and something that you will implement, that you can make that commitment to yourself and be held accountable by others. And the truth is, not that many people are actually connected to themselves. We live in this world of so many factors and stress, and a lot of people are living with the norms of society. They're living the way that they think that they should be living, in terms of the work and being a work human, going back to home and watching TV, and then the cycle is perpetuating, and then next minute, as we would say in New Zealand, they are not connected to themselves, and 30 years has gone by. And they wonder what the hell has happened. So it's really important that, you're watching this video, you have access to the knowledge. We have the World Wide Web of incredible information. And all of my information that I've been gathering and learning as a coach is through books and through courses. And books are really an essential part of your personal development. And if you're not reading books to further improve yourself, to learn about these things, that's probably one thing you need to start doing. And I've got a list of book recommendations. I'll actually put them on the Culture Chameleons because I really believe that reading is the way to further educate ourselves. And it also satisfies our soul's need for growth. That hunger to improve, books is the way to do it. So that's a really good first step about learning about yourself and connecting to your soul. Now, why is it important that we learn about these things? What actually happens when you connect to your soul and you connect to your authenticity? Well, the first one, and probably the most important of all, is that you create peace in your mind. Our lives are so busy, and everyone has challenges. Everyone has the 1,000 miles an hour brain, these thoughts, this electrical storm going on, constant self-doubt, fears, all of these things. And when you connect to yourself, connect to your authenticity, you start to feel calm in your mind. And that's one really important thing that will happen over time, and it definitely makes you feel day to day like you can just be peaceful because you're not overthinking, you're not grinding your mind. There's also another really important part of connecting to your authentic self, and that is about connection with others. So when you can truly be yourself, you truly know what you're about, well, then you can have those similarities with others. Oh, Yamaya, your comment just came up. Thank you so much for tuning in. And it's really important to be a good influence for the people around you. You all know somebody that you meet them and you're like, oh, geez, that person's so genuine. They're so authentic. And when you have those thoughts, it's because they know what they're about, and it's easy to connect with them because they know what they stand for. And that's really important when we are connecting, because when you are not connected to yourself, you have that busyness, first of all, and then you sort of have a bit of a show. It's a bit of the protection mechanism that you put around yourself. You end up presenting that to people. And people sense that it's fake. People sense, even if you don't know that you're doing it sometimes, it's really putting across the wrong message. For example, people that are unfulfilled because they're in their work role and they kid themselves into believing that they love their job. When they're talking about it, you notice that passion is missing. We're really intuitive beings. We really feel as opposed to think about things. And if you think that your show is working, it's not. And you really need to start to have that authentic connection so that you can have an authentic relationship, you can have an authentic work environment. All of these things come from connecting to who you are as a person. And we're all so unique and we're all individuals, so you don't have to be anything else. You are perfect the way that you are. You just need to believe that your soul is enough. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about later is the 3 fears in life. When we start to connect to our authentic selves and we start to find that inner peace and we have that inner truth, we know, where we're heading, we have that purpose in our lives, we also connect to our inner potential. And it's literally, we hear it all the time, unlock your true potential, unlock your true potential. Honestly, connecting to your authentic self is like a power source that you cannot believe. Why? Because you end up having a passion, having purpose, and you get out of bed with a spring in your step because you fucking want to. Because you're excited to attack the day, because you know that in this day you are going to achieve the things that you want to achieve. You're not just there on somebody else's agenda. You're not just there doing it because, well, it's what you do. You're not just going to an average job. You've made decisions to connect with yourself, and then you know today is the day that I'm going to do exactly what I need to do to achieve my goals and be who I want to be. So just think about that. That's power. That's energy. That's your constant stresses that you did have when you weren't connected to yourself. Once you start to connect to yourself, you shift your focus. And that focus is on things that you can control. It's shifting your focus and using your power on yourself instead of stresses in the external world. Hope this is making sense to you, and Maya, let me know if you have any questions at all. And when we connect to our authentic selves, we start becoming more at ease with the world around us. And it's basically like you've got less shit going on in your mind, so you have more time to focus on others. And that's a really important part of this, is that when we are not connected to ourselves, we don't know what's going on, we end up being defensive. We end up attacking other people because we don't understand the emotions in ourselves. And so realistically, when you become more connected to yourself, you have more empathy, you have more understanding, you can be more spiritual and be more at ease, and then the people around you can feel that. You can have an interaction that doesn't have an ego. You have an interaction that's way more just there to be, as opposed to look at me, or in other senses, don't look at me because I don't know myself and you're freaking me out. You know, you just have that sense of, hey, this is me and I'm okay with that. And I'm not saying that you don't get emotional, because we're all emotional beings, but I'm just saying that it really makes a difference in how you interact with other people when you have that centered self. So just think about that for a minute. When was the last time that you were defensive? And why were you defensive? Was there something that it triggered in you, a little niggle, something that maybe you need to assess? And we'll also be talking about that today, as having that more objective look at the interactions that you have. So what if you just allowed your busy mind to take over? What if you just continued on this perpetual loop that you're currently on, that subconscious loop? You know, then you end up getting to the end of your life and you feel unfulfilled. And I actually met a man on the Queen Charlotte track, and he was in his 70s and he was so unfulfilled. Big, tall man, wealthy, had, you know, from the outside looked like he had it all together. And he confided in me and said that he didn't feel content. He didn't feel fulfilled. And that's what happens when you perpetually go on this, it's like a hamster wheel of life. Society tells you this is how you need to be, and you don't stop to calm yourself, to think, to put in effort, to develop yourself. Personal development and the area that I work in is so undervalued. People just skip by it. Oh, I don't have time for that shit. It's remarkable that people don't understand that if they're perpetually on the hamster wheel, then they're going to continue doing the same things, the same processes, and they don't end up connecting with themselves, finding that true power, being more aligned with what they actually want to do. And it really makes a difference in who you are as a person and how you're going to live. So how are we going to do all of this? I have a fantastic list of tips and tricks, and the first one that I think is very important is yoga and meditation. Now, I know that the world is preaching yoga and meditation to everyone, and it's not everyone's thing, but it doesn't have to be your thing. You need to find what works for you. My mum went to a retreat in Golden Bay, and they did mindfulness gardening. What does that mean? So mindfulness is literally being in the moment, being present to how things are, not the past and getting freaked out by all the things that you didn't do, and not the anxiety of the future and all the things that you do need to do, but just being in the now. And mindfulness gardening is just looking at everything you're doing, taking it in. But it's giving your mind rest because you are in the now and you are not allowing all of those external things to mess up your mind. And so find something that works for you. If you really like sewing, be a mindful sewer. When you sit at that sewing machine, tell your family, hey, I'd like to just be on my own for the next hour. Please don't talk to me. And then just be totally present with yourself. You know, if mindfulness is something that you haven't ever done before, well, just do it in really small steps. Just sit outside in the sun for 5 minutes and have the sun on your face every day and make that your one thing. And you can slowly build it up. And then there's meditation, and there's loads of apps. I use one called Insight Timer, and there's another one called Waking Up, and they're fantastic. You put them on 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then there's a guided voice that keeps you there and concentrating, and then you've just got to coat your breath with awareness, and it's just about teaching your mind how to be calm. Our mind is the monkey mind. It's the brain that's left over from when we were apes. It's just going for it, isn't it? And so we need to get into the prefrontal cortex, that mammalian, that human developed part of the brain that is way more intelligent, and teach ourselves how to be calm. And we can only do this with the conscious mind, because the subconscious, that's the animals, that's those repeat rhythms, and the conscious mind is the one that is able to have that objective view, to look at things and know this is what needs to happen in order for us to be more calm. We're more intelligent beings now. We just need to teach our brain how. Otherwise our brain will just run havoc, and that will be, you know, the monkey brain. So morning and kia ora to all of those people that just tuned in as well. Lovely to have a couple of people on this live today. So being present, number one, absolutely number one skill that you need to learn, and that will help you connect to your authentic self. And I do yoga nearly every morning, and that is really wonderful to do some sports, some exercise, and just go as hard or as soft as you like. Really chill, and at the end have those 5 minutes of Shavasana, being on the ground, and it's me time. Especially if you're a mum or you work in a really busy job and there's so many pressures on you. To have that me time, and also, you know, the sport to get the body moving, get the blood going through your system, that is really important time. And a lot of my clients, they say, oh, I just can't be calm, and blah, blah. And then I say, how about your self-care? They say, what? What do you mean self-care? Well, self-care is a real important part of finding the balance. We've got to obviously have the action, the masculine energy in us, go, go, go. Let's get some shit done. And then we need to have the calm self, that nurturing, you know, being part of ourselves. And that's a real balance. So where's self-care coming into your life? How many baths have you had this week? How many times have you made a decision to be by yourself and take the time to look after your needs? And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit, those needs that we all have. So a lot of this perpetual mind chatter and self-doubt and inner talk comes from the fear of not being enough. And I've talked about emotional history before on one of my talks. And if you didn't watch that video, it's fantastic, about just allowing yourself to feel. The video is actually called Permission to Feel. And it's really good because you do need to give yourself permission to just feel all of your emotions. And that's, I won't go into that because that's in another video, but that's part of it. In this knowing that you're enough is just allowing yourself to feel the things that you're feeling, getting through those emotions, and then just having that sense of like, hey, I am enough. I am worthy. I do deserve the love. And all of that comes from positive self-talk and reinforcement. We all have such different childhoods. We had experiences with our parents that are so unique, and quite often there's a lot of trauma in our childhood, even if there wasn't even trauma, but we made things mean stuff as kids. But now you're an adult, so revisit those things. Think about some of the beliefs that you have around yourself. What are you actually telling yourself, and can you upgrade that? Can you change that self-talk to be more positive? So maybe having something on your window or on the mirror when you're brushing your teeth. I am enough. I am loved. These are part of the 3 universal fears. Tony Robbins talks about this. The fear of not being loved, the fear of not being enough, and the last one is the fear of not belonging. And we have these perpetual fears that keep on going in us unless we decide to become aware of them and recognize what patterns we are playing out in order to succumb to that fear. And that fear, it's natural. It comes, it's one of our 3 universal fears, and it's allowed to come. But you need to recognize that that is also part of that monkey brain, and we need to then, with a more intelligent, conscious look at things, say, hey, it's okay. I am enough. I've got this. Thank you for protecting me, but I got this. I know who I am, and I am enough. And it's allowing that feeling to be there and then being more objective about it. I don't have to listen to all my thoughts. We tend to think that because you thought it, it must be true, but it's not. You can have a thought and just allow that thought to pass through you. It doesn't define me. It doesn't need to be me. So knowing you're enough is really important. If your parents didn't give you that love and support, well, you need to give yourself that love and support. Now you're an adult. You have all these skills. You have access to information. Decide today to just step up and make yourself feel that love. And there's plenty of ways to do it, and we're going to go through a few of those. So I talked about negative self-talk, and one of the things I talked about in a prior video was actually how you can record yourself on your phone with all that negative self-talk, and then you can re-record so that you can record something more positive that will end up being, oh, there's something funny happening with my internet, and I don't know what it is, but excuse me if the video is cutting out. So, we're into it. Recording yourself, that inner self-talk that can be so debilitating, and recording it and then recognizing what you have said to yourself so that you can then record something that's more empowering and listen to that. Instead of, oh, you silly old thing, why do you never get things right? You're always doing this. That's a real easy way to make yourself feel like shit. So recording something that's like, it's a learning journey. People make mistakes. I'm a human. How much better does that sound to set you up for the rest of the day? So maybe that's one thing that you can do. Recording yourself talk, listening to it, becoming aware of it, and then recording a better, more empowered version. When we start to be more objective with the way that we think, it's basically stepping from that subconscious pattern that keeps on perpetuating to that conscious mind where you are looking at the processes, you're becoming aware. Really self-aware people are able to be like, that's interesting, I did that. Or, I wonder why I feel like this. And they don't get stuck in the weeds. What do I mean by that? So if you're defensive, or if you're feeling like you are stressed and overwhelmed and getting bogged down by things, well, you're getting caught up in the detail, in the minute stresses of life, instead of stepping back and asking yourself better questions. Why am I stressed? Why was I so defensive in that conversation? And actually, we start to think more objectively, but we ask ourselves better questions so that we're not getting stressed out. So we also start to think about things where's the best place to put our focus? What are the things that we can control in life? Well, we can control our thoughts, we can control our emotions, and we can control the way that we respond to people. Those are the only three things you can control in life. So if you're stressing about the weather, or you're stressing about how someone replied to you, or you're stressing about the traffic, why are you stressing about those things? Well, it's that subconscious. It's society tells you to blame others. Society tells you to not take responsibility and that it's okay to blame your boss for having a shit day because he's a pretty shit boss. Well, realistically, how are you dealing with your inner world? These things will bring you back to yourself because you start to ask yourself better questions. How can I take responsibility in this situation for the things that I can control? And that's a really big one, because when you start to have positive self-talk and you start to take responsibility for what you can and can't control, that makes you a way stronger person. You start to then feel empowered instead of disempowering yourself. When you allow external factors to run your life, like, oh, my children drive me mad. No, you drive yourself mad. Your children are just being. Do you get that? It's like the responsibility that you need to take on yourself. So what can you control? And maybe choosing then to change the internal world, and your external world will change as a result. So I hope you're loving this, and I'd love those other people that have jumped on to type in to let me know who you are so I can give you a shout out. And I'm so passionate about this topic. I really love it, because the reason why I became a coach is because people are just incredible little bubbles of potential. And when you start to investigate where the limits are in people's thinking, what they can actually do to improve themselves, they start to change remarkably. They start to have a bigger open posture. Their eyes are more sparkly. Their smile is wider. And people literally step into their power. And that is why I do my job, because I love how people are able to change so remarkably. Oh, Grace, you are just such a fan. I love it. Hello to Canada from old New Zealand. We can't wait to have you here. Brilliant, brilliant. Oh, love it. So, yes, that is just, it's a truth that people are walking around with this negative self-talk, this fundamental disempowering way of being. And when they start to ask themselves better questions, they start to find that inner peace. They step into their power and they change their reality. So, being authentic. I have 5 rules of how to become more authentic. Rule number 1, know your needs. This is a huge one. Knowing your needs means that you are able to ask for help where you need it. Knowing your needs means that you can have a really clear map of what it is that makes you happy and makes you tick. And knowing your needs has to come from you. Nobody else knows what you need better than you. So that's rule number 1. Write it down. Are you somebody that needs mountains in their life? Are you somebody that needs connection? What are the things that are your non-negotiable needs that you must have in your life in order to be happy? Keep that as a roadmap. Those are yours, and only you know them, and only you can communicate to others about them. Number 2, knowing your boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries were until last year. And then blows my mind that you actually need to have a lot of self-awareness to recognize what your boundaries are, to protect your energy, to stop being a perpetual people pleaser, because you're actually able to say, no, thank you. This is what I need to do for myself. It's knowing where you end and the other person begins, or knowing where the other person ends and you begin. Those boundaries that you set in relationships, that you set at work, that you set with your children, that you set with your friends, you're basically teaching people how to treat you. If you don't set boundaries with your boss, he's going to walk all over you. If you don't set boundaries with your husband, well, you're going to be perpetually in the cycle of feeling terrible because you never educated him on your needs and never set a boundary around it. So number 2, knowing your boundaries, so freaking important. And if you need to do some reading on this, Gottman, amazing, family relationship stuff. He has got incredible books and everything. You can find it all online. So, number 3, know the lies you tell yourself. When you say you're going to go to the gym tomorrow and you don't, what happens? You lose trust in yourself. Setting those really small things and following through on them builds that self-trust. It allows you to know that when you set the small goals, you will achieve them. That means when the bigger things come along, you've got confidence that you will do them. So know the lies you tell yourself. Be self-aware enough to call yourself out on your own bullshit. Number 4 is knowing it's okay to be you. You are enough. You are loved and you are amazing. You are an awesome human being. And I believe that every human being is unique and has amazing qualities. They have incredible, just a new approach to life. So knowing that it's okay to be you is so vital. We've talked about that, all that self-talk stuff. But really believing it. And at the beginning, maybe you don't believe it. And that's okay. The founder of my school, she went through a really heavy depression and she wrote on the back of her door on a sticky note, "I am fucking awesome." And she just saw that sticky note every day. And at the beginning, she just was like, nah. And then slowly started believing it. And it became her mantra. So that when she would step into a situation, even when she was scared and she had those old processes still sort of underlying, she would say, "I am fucking awesome." And if you act as if, then it shall be. You can create that reality for yourself. And you just need to train your mind. So having maybe that one sentence that will really make a difference into believing that you are enough, that you are okay exactly how you are. Then the next thing is to be vulnerable. Number 5 is the most important thing to become your authentic self is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And it can be scary. We spend our whole lives protecting ourselves from hurt, from everything around us. When we are children, we develop in a way that keeps us safe. But we're not children anymore. And we know that vulnerability is so important because that creates genuine authenticity. If you can reach out for support and say that you are scared and put yourself out there as someone that needs help, well, you are strong enough to do that. Because other people would be like, "No, I don't need help, I'm fine, I'm just fine, everything's fine." And people see through that. So genuinely coming from the heart, "I really need your support right now," that's really important. Or being able to accept a compliment. Being able to say like, "Hey, I have done well, haven't I?" That's a vulnerable thing to do. So learning how to be vulnerable is so important. I've got a couple of you extras chimed in, so hello for whoever's watching. It's really nice when you start to connect to your authentic self and you have your needs and your boundaries, then you just start to flourish because you're not consumed by the things that other people want you to do. You have a really clear roadmap of exactly who you are as a person, what your non-negotiables are, and then you can build those boundaries. And by the way, you're not going to get it right every time. And you're probably going to take one step forward and two steps back. Once you start becoming authentic, it can be really scary. But sit with the fear and do it anyway, because you know that coming to your authentic self will connect you to your power, and it will literally change the way that you live your life. You'll be able to have that more approachable, open, connected self, and creates a ripple effect in your family, in your communities, at your work. It's so worth it in the end. Another thing that I do, which is really good for rewiring your brain, is a gratitude journal. And if you would like a gratitude journal, and I've actually been handwriting them for a couple of people, because I think that they're vital, because you are teaching your brain how to think. When you go to bed at night and you just switch off, you've got all of the stress and everything that goes from the day. And that's what you tend to think about. But a gratitude journal asks you questions like, when was I at my best today? Who showed me appreciation today, and who did I appreciate? What did I do to tell people that I love them? And this is really wiring your brain to automatically bring in the positive as opposed to bringing in the negative. So if you haven't already got a gratitude journal, or if you need some ideas on what you need to write in your gratitude journal, please just send me a private message and I'll be more than happy to let you know about that. So there's a couple of ideas for you. Those 5 authenticity points, gratitude journal, and just making the decision that you're sick of living that subconscious pattern. You're ready now to become your authentic self and know what you're about, know what you stand for, so that you can connect way better to other people. So I wonder if anyone has any questions, or if you are satisfied with the video today. And I just really love bringing these things to your awareness, and I'm so glad for those of you who have chimed in today. Yamaya and Grace, you are my fan legends. Love you so much. And for everyone else, please make sure you're engaging in the group. Make sure that you are asking questions, because participation is really the best way for us to all connect with each other. And anything that you think, ideas or things that you could come up with that I'm not already doing, please just let me know, because I love feedback and I'd really love to support you in your journey of personal growth and in this amazing journey of Culture Chameleons. So many exciting things on the horizon, and I'm really stoked to bring everything to light now, and that we are a bigger group. And now I also have a awareness webinar that I'm doing over the next 3 days. So if you want to get some more clarity on your life, setting some sustainable goals, knowing what your beliefs are, and a lot of the things that we talked about today, it's going to be in the Clarity Workshop. So that's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. New Zealand time. There is an event on the Facebook page, so please tune into that. And otherwise, I will see you all on the live again next week. Ciao for now.